believe that you cannot be, amen, anything else greater than what you are, he'll say you're going to be no better. You're going to be no greater. Amen. But I'm going to tell you something. When he has said that if you leave this place, you're going to be alone. No. Amen. You're not going to be alone, because there is a friend who sticketh closer than a brother to you. And if you just get up from here and say, no, devil, it's moving day for me. My God has promised that he'd never leave me nor forsake me. Amen. I'm leaving here this day. I'm moving to there because it's moving day. It's time to move from death to life. It's time for the church to move from darkness to light. It's time for the church to move from defeat to victory. It's time to move from cursed to blessed. It's time to move from shame to grace. It's time to move from ignored to affirmed. It's time to move from fear to faith, from sorrow to joy. It's time to move from the pit to the palace, from stocks and bonds to ministry, from depressed to sound mind, from slavery to liberated, from confused to sure, from weak to strong, from intimidated to bold, from servants to kings, from beaten down to lifted up, from rejected to accepted. You've been where you're at long enough. Just how long are you going to stay in that place? Just how long are you going to stay in that place, amen, that says you're satisfied with how it's going? No, let me tell you something. If you're satisfied with how it's going, you ain't going. You're stuck. I'm going to tell you tonight, the devil is in the business of getting people stuck in a rut. You know what a rut is? It's a grave with both ends kicked out of it. That's all it is. It's a place to die. But I'm telling you tonight, God's got a place, a way of lifting you up out of the rut, out of that old grave, amen, and moving you from here to there.
Glory to God.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Glory to God.
Family can go and they can request through a funeral home or through a cemetery. They can request for their loved ones to be exhumed from that ground where they was buried, because they want to move them to another place. Maybe a place that's closer to them, or maybe a place, amen, next to another family member. Amen. And to do that, they're going to pay more than twice the price that it cost them to be buried in the first place. I'm going to tell you something. Amen. You can go and have your loved one's body exhumed. Amen. That's dead. Amen. We'll pull them up out of the ground and their body is dead. And all we can do with them is take them to another resting place and still bury them again because they're dead. But Jesus is the only one, amen, that can open up that grave where the devil has buried you and has tried to cause death, spiritual death to your soul. Amen. Jesus is the only one that can pick you up out of that place dead and put you in this place alive and well in him. Somebody shout amen tonight.
Amen.
Woo, hallelujah. Hallelujah. I feel the Lord here tonight. I said you've been where you are long enough. It's time to pack up and move. I said it's time. Oh, listen to me. I said, I'm going to say it again. You've been where you are in the Lord long enough. It's time for you to recognize I need to go farther in him. Amen. And you say today it's moving day. The day that you, let's go back to the beginning. Moving day. It's the day that you move from here to there. The day that you gather up all your stuff and you relocate. It's the day, now we're talking spiritual now. You hear me? Now before we was talking about physically moving your stuff. But we're talking spiritual now. Amen. It's today that you go through your stuff and you separate the good from the bad, the needed from the unneeded, the china from the clutter. The day that you recognize there's some stuff that you can take with you, but there's some stuff that you're going to have to rent a dumpster. Because let me tell you something, even though you may have worked hard for some of the stuff you got, amen, God says, no, you're not taking it with you. You're leaving it behind. That's something you did. That's something you worked out. Amen. Right now, you're going to trust in me because I've got something worked out for you. I've got greater things for you. Hallelujah. Do you understand today that there are some things in our life that are clutter and there's some things that are trash?
Come on.
Amen.
All right.
Now there's some things in our homes that gather dust. And we got some of those things.
Yeah.
It's stuff that it's not necessarily bad to have them. Amen. But it's just clutter. You see, one of the things about moving to a new place is you begin to pack everything up. And when you get it all packed up and you start looking around, you're like, wow, I thought we were cleaner than this. Anybody know what I mean tonight? I thought we were cleaner than this. Amen. But now in the midst of all of that, there's some clutter. It's not necessarily wrong. Some of the things in our life today are not necessarily wrong. They're just clutter. And they're just taking up space in our hearts and our lives. That God could be filling that space up in our hearts today. Are you hearing me tonight? But there's some things in our life that are just right out sin. And if it's sin, it should not be there. It's trash. There's a difference in clutter and trash. Even some of the clutter you might deal with, and God might even deal with. But the trash has got to go. I'm going to tell you something. The church has got to get back to conviction. I said the church has got to get back to where the Spirit of God, amen, is allowed to move, amen, through the spirit of conviction, amen, and where the people, amen, heed to the convicting Spirit of God.
Amen. Amen.
It's moving day.
It's moving day.
But where do I go? You go to the Rock of Ages.
Yes. Yes.
And you build your house there.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Somebody shout amen.
Amen.
Amen. Because you see, there's a wise man and a foolish man.
Mm-hmm.
The foolish man who hears the sayings of God and doesn't obey them is the one who builds his house upon the sand. And the winds blow, the storms come, the rains fall, and the house falls. And it said, great is the fall. Great is the fall thereof. But there's a wise man who hears the sayings of the Lord and does them, that builds his house upon the rock. And those same storms come. Those same winds blow. The same rain falls. Amen. But that house does not move because it is built upon the Rock of Ages. Hallelujah. Are you hearing me tonight? I said it's moving day. I said it's, one day you see it was moving day for Lot and his family. Amen. It was moving day. God literally went in and said, all right, it's time. Told them, amen, make provision. Get out of Dodge. Amen. And by all means, when God is moving you from here to there, when he's saying you got to go through some things, you got to make some decisions on some stuff, amen, that doesn't need to go with you any longer. Some things that you need to drop off of your life, some things that's got to be let go of, amen. You got to get out of this place and Amen. You got to go from here to there. Amen. But while you're moving, while God is taking you from here to there, by all means, remember Lot's wife.
Yes, my. That's right.
Remember Lot's wife.
Yes.
One of the most powerful scriptures in the Bible. Remember Lot's wife.
Yes, come on. Yes.
You see, they was going somewhere, but there was something
Yeah. My God.
that she'd left behind. That's a whole other message. But there was stuff that she had left behind that was so dear to her heart that when they had been told, don't look back, she still looked back. She didn't go any farther in that journey. Because when she turned in disobedience, she became a pillar of salt. I don't know today